Hello, my name is Dorin Ellen Beldotan in Svat in Israel, and this is the last night of Hanukkah this year. So if it's already Hanukkah, let's light the lights. What did you think when you saw the name of this video, The Deep? What was your first association? The deep what? Did you think about the deep? And I'm not going to give you any suggestions. I want to hear what you write down below in the comments what your thoughts were. Carl Jung expressed a very, very profound insight. He said, until we face our shadow selves, they will present themselves to us as situations. If we think about the kinds of attacks that we perceive ourselves as being under, they all involve depth. They all involve profundity. We experience ourselves as being under attack by the deep state. There have been earthquakes, and so there is disquietude in the depths of the earth. And when we think about the depths of the earth, we think about magma and all kinds of dangers. We don't certainly imagine that we can live under there. And there are some people believe that there are some kinds of beings that are living under there, that are living in some kind of subterranean hellhole and have negative designs on the people who live on the surface. And if there's an earthquake, then there is the danger of a tsunami. And then we're under attack by the depths of the ocean. When we think about the depths of the ocean, again, we think about a place where we couldn't possibly live down there. We would drown. We would be crushed by the pressure. Thank you, Abba. By the pressures, we might be eaten by some kind of sea monster. Maybe there's a megalodon swimming around in the Mariana Trench. And we experience ourselves as being attacked by deep space. We say that the earth is being bombarded with cosmic rays. And so when we think about space too, think about deep space. We think that those are impossible conditions under which to live. And when we describe the planets, we describe all kinds of horrors. It's much too hot, it's much too cold, there's too much gravity. I've been listening to these descriptions of the depths of the earth, the depths of the ocean, the depths of space. And I can't help noticing that the descriptions, which are always malevolent, sound an awful lot like anti-Semitism to me. It's exactly the same. Exactly the same accusations, So we see that we're being attacked by the depths. I've spoken in other videos about the fact that the creation is a moral fractal. That is to say that the very same meta-moral teaching takes different forms on different levels of morality. If we look at those different forms deeply, we can see that they are all expressions of meta-moral concepts, but they do take very different forms. There is no depth in creation other than the depths of our own subconscious, our own minds. Every kind of depth that we perceive, be it the ocean, be it the earth, be it space, be it the deep state, are our own perceptions of our own depths. The depths of our own subconscious. That, as Jung has said, rightfully so, very profoundly, having looked into the depths of the subconscious, he understands that when our own shadow selves have not been examined and light has not been shed on them and we are not aware of them and we have not made friends with them, they appear to us as external circumstances beyond our control that overwhelm us, because the subconscious mind is always orders of magnitude greater than the conscious mind. And so our job then is to become familiar with our own subconscious and to look so deeply into ourselves that our shadow selves are revealed as benevolent and not as malevolent. We talk about the shadow government. This is very, very interesting. The word shade or shadow in English is demon. In Hebrew, shed is demon. Those who are under attack by the shadow government are under attack by demons. Who are those demons that they're under attack by? Well, the word demon itself is an etymon for the Hebrew word dimayon, which is imagination. And you should also hear the word dominion in that. If we do not have dominion over our dimayon, over our imaginations, it presents itself to us externally as demons. And you know, it's very interesting. I was listening to Kevin Shipp's description of the deep state, you know, and it all sounds so huge, deep and frightening. And then there's the central bank. If I say central bank to you, what is your association? What other bank is there in our subconscious? Our memory bank. If we do not have our own memory banks under our control, if we don't have access to those accounts, if we cannot deposit into them and withdraw from them and enjoy the interest that grows on them, if we cannot open the closed accounts if we need to and close the open accounts, If we don't have that kind of self-control over our memory banks, we will surely be controlled by that bank externally, and then it takes the form of the Vatican Bank, and the Rothschild Bank, and the Federal Reserve. There's a reason why those who wish to control us, who are our own shadow selves, learn psychology and have so deeply studied the subconscious. They have learned the dark arts of getting the public to be controlled by their own minds, to remain controlled by their own subconscious rather than becoming the masters of their subconscious. That's what they do. They learn how to make us afraid of our own shadow selves and not have dominion over them. And then they become the demons that control us. I'm going to let you know a secret. I'm an anarchist. I mean a real one, not like Antifa, not like Soros. I have a blog that's called Holy Anarchy. In order to get to the level of holy anarchy when we are not ruled by a government, we have to reach the level where we have as much control over our subconscious minds as the government does. At that point, they can no longer rule us. They can no longer use our minds against us. If we have more control over our subconscious minds than do the people who are in our government, who are actually our own shadow selves, then the whole concept of government becomes irrelevant, because we govern ourselves. We've brought our own subconscious under our conscious control. We have made a friend of it, so even the depths of it that are inaccessible to us are benevolent. In order to gain control over our minds, we have to contract an incurable case of pronoia. Everybody's heard of paranoia. Fewer people have heard of pronoia. Pronoia is the view that the entire creation conspires for us, not against us, works with us. Now that is not necessarily true. It is an act of will to say the creation is benevolent. It is not necessarily so. It is a great act of will. It is a great act of self-discipline and imposing our will on the creation to say, you will work with me. You will be my friend. We will be cooperative. We're going to both conspire for the good of both of us, to get our self-control to a point where our subconscious is no longer demonic, where our imaginations no longer haunt us, to have the courage to be able to look inside of ourselves deep enough to be able to deal with the depths of our memory bank, which is our entire genetic memory. And in order to be able to do that, we have to forgive all of our ancestors. We have to forgive everything that happened in our history. We have to let that go. We have to write off the debts. In order to gain control over our memory bank, we have to declare a jubilee for all of the generations. And then we get control over our memory bank. Once we do, central bank, the Federal Reserve Bank, the IMF, all of that becomes totally irrelevant, because the power that comes under our control, when we forgive all of the generations that are those dark shadows in our subconscious, that collective power is orders of magnitude greater than any one bank in any one generation. That's how it's done. And so our first order of business is forgiving and looking into ourselves honestly and seeing what it is inside of ourselves that is negative, that is in pain, and addressing it. I think that Buddhism deals with that especially effectively. They are really, really good at doing the deep meditation that accesses those recesses of our subconscious. And the Aboriginal peoples do that through their relationship with nature and their relationship to their ancestors. In Judaism, that is done by learning Torah, such that when we first access Torah, the people that we first learn Torah, the people that appear to us appear to be our ancestors from the long distant past, and little by little we bring them out of the past and into the present and integrate them into our very own, not only psyches, but our bodies, so that we actually become built of them, of all of the generations. These are the traditions with which I am most familiar, that deal with this very, very well. In Christianity, there is the concept of forgiveness. But having externalized God so that you have to believe in someone else, it makes you vulnerable to the external. It has to be internalized. You have to understand that the kingdom of God really is within us. But we have to go way past the level of understanding that as a feel-good, catchy kind of a phrase, and start to look into ourselves and do the very, very, very deep meditation of connecting with all of the genetic memories that are inside of us. Quite honestly, I don't know whether or not there is a tradition in Christianity which teaches how to do that. I know that there are Christian schools of meditation, but if I understand it correctly, it's more meditation on Yeshu and not really looking into our own deep selves. That is the only way to really come to peace with ourselves, to make peace with all of our ancestors, to make peace with all of that which transpired in our histories that caused wounds to our progenitors, anger that they didn't deal with, hurts that they didn't heal, that we do that for them. I don't know whether or not the methods of doing that exist within Christianity. I don't know. I just never got into it deep enough to know whether or not you're actually taught how to do that. I do know that Buddhism is very, very good at doing that. Thich Nhat Hanh has come to a very, very high level of meeting the past, meeting all of the different forms that went into his own being and making peace with them. And I would highly recommend looking at his videos. Quite honestly, the rabbis in this generation are not very good at this. They don't learn Torah that way. There's still a lot of rage, a lot of anger, a lot of unforgiven debts, which are all monetary debts, are essentially moral debts. When we forgive those moral debts, we forgive our monetary debts are forgiven. The very fact that the rabbis have prose bool and they no longer forgive monetary debts means that they're not forgiving moral debts, and that's being dragged on and on. The very reason that Hashem tells us to forgive all debts is that we can get out of moral debt. So long as the rabbis insist upon keeping those monetary debts, they're going to drag along the moral debts along with them. So quite honestly, the rabbinic tradition of Judaism isn't very good at doing this either. Those of us who find it in ourselves how to do it are blessed. I mean, it's something that if one prays to God to learn how to do it, God will show you how to do it, how to read the book of life that's written in you, and you go back and back in generations and experience the pain and forgive the debts and clear that all out. But if you find that difficult to do yourself, I would look into Thich Nhat Hanh's videos. He's really a master of that, and the Buddhist meditations are very good at doing exactly that. Thank you for listening, and the key is very deep forgiveness. By the way, there's an organization I should mention, the Forgiveness Project. They're very good at that too. And there are Christians in that organization. For Christians, I would refer you to them to ask how they do that within the Christian tradition, and they'll help you with that. There are people who have experienced very, very traumatic things, which are always, again, their own subconscious that has come out and become a situation that was overwhelming, that they had to handle, that they had to deal with. And in the forgiving of that, they learn how to do the very, very, very deep forgiving that's written into all of us, which is essentially scar tissue written in our cells that has to be healed. Those who do that will soon find that the grips of government begin to loosen. The grips of financial debt begin to loosen in stages. Doesn't happen immediately, but we see that they loosen in time. And as they loosen, then we are freed up, we have more energy freed up to do deeper work, and it goes on until we've cleared that all out. And we also find that that which frightened us is no longer so frightening, that we see the beauty in the depths of the earth, and we see the beauty in the depths of the sea. We see the beauty in the depths of the sea. We see the beauty in the depths of the seeing. We see the depths and the beauty of space, and we are no longer afraid asteroids and cosmic rays and all of that, that we begin to see that all as very positive, because all of the light that's coming to us from all of the stars are the lights that are coming to us from our own ancestors. That's who the stars are. That's who we were born from. Not just the physical representation of it, but also their deeds and their thoughts and their prayers and their hopes. That is the power behind the physical stars that we see. That is what drives the stars. That is what determines their courses and their orbits. And as we tap into the consciousness of our ancestors, our own consciousness expands by orders of magnitude. And we begin to see the joy, the healing in all of the depths and all of the manifestations of what depth itself is. It's very interesting, in Hebrew, the word for valley or depth is omek, ayin mem, kuf, which is yud resh, which is 210, which is also haha, so which is mountain. So the depth is the same thing as mountain. Amakim, which are depths, is also heharim, which are the mountains. And we get to a point where the pinnacles and the depths become one and the same. Thank you for listening.